Hi everyone, this is Dr. Mike, host of the free iTunes podcast, Psychiatric Secrets Revealed with Dr. Mike, but that's not why I'm here today. This is another Saving Savvy episode, and this is actually a Photography 101 episode. I actually had a viewer ask me, what is a good, cheap camera for low light? And of course, that's such a general question that there's not a direct answer, so I thought I would just kind of talk generally about what to look for. Now, if you have specific questions about a particular camera, you can always just Google it for a review, or you can go to a site like dpreview.com, digitalphotography.review.com, and that's going to give you a lot of specific information, especially if you're looking at a somewhat better camera. But let's look at the basic things that determine whether a camera performs well in low light or not. The first thing to look at is the sensor size. So cameras have, the sensor is of course the digital film of the camera. Let's say this is a sensor, and this is what's going to have the pixels on it that pick up the image, right? So the bigger the sensor size, the better the light gathering ability. And sensors come in all sorts of sizes. So very small sensors are in things like cell phones. Your typical compact camera has a somewhat bigger sensor called a 1/2.3 sensor. Some enthusiast cameras that are compact have an even bigger sensor, about 60% bigger than the compact camera, and that's a 1/1.7 sensor. Now these are all crazy numbers, so you just have to know the numbers because they all relate differently. Bigger sensors than that are a 2/3 sensor, and then there's bigger than that a 1-inch sensor, which is about 4 times bigger than a compact camera sensor. Bigger than that is a micro 4/3 sensor. It says micro, but it's actually bigger. 4/3 sensor. Bigger than that is the sensor that's in most DSLRs, which is an APS-C size sensor, and even bigger than that is a full frame sensor, which is the size of a 35mm piece of film. Just to give you an idea, an APS-C size sensor is roughly 13 times bigger than a compact film camera like a 1/2.3 sensor. So that gives you an idea. So the bigger the sensor size, the more surface area, the bigger the pixels on that sensor, and the better low light performance. You also have to take into account the number of pixels. So if I have a sensor that's this size and it has 10 million pixels versus a sensor that's this size and it has 20 million pixels, the one with the lower pixel count is going to have bigger pixels and it will be better in low light. So you have to kind of judge that too. So a lot of times a better enthusiast compact camera is going to have a lower pixel count than just a run-of-the-mill Walmart variety camera. So pixel count comparing that to sensor size is important. Well, of course, how much light you shine on that sensor will also make a difference, and that's registered in something called an f-stop. The thing for you to remember is the lower the number, the better the light gathering ability. So an f-stop of 2.8 gathers twice as much light as an f-stop of 4. And an f-stop of 4 gathers twice as much light as an f-stop of 5.6. So the higher the number, the less light that comes in. So if you have a camera that has a fixed f-stop of 2.8, and we're talking again about a set camera without an interchangeable lens, that's pretty darn good compared to a camera that might start out at its wide end at 2.8, but then when you get down to that telephoto end, it's 6.3. Not so good, right? Because when you're telephoto out, when you might want that extra light, you're at a concert taking pictures, it doesn't work so well. So look for low numbers with an f-stop, and look for, if it's a range, look for a low range, like 2.8 to 4, or 1.7 to 2.8, as opposed to 3.5 to 6.3. So the lens that's built on the camera makes a huge difference too. Now most people shoot in JPEG. JPEG is a very common compression format that gives you small file sizes. And that data that comes from the sensor is processed in the computer of the camera to form a JPEG image. More modern processors are able to do algorithms that reduce the noise without losing as much detail as older microprocessors and older cameras. So somewhat newer cameras can take that JPEG image and give you a perceived better low light performance because it's doing some work behind the scenes. If you take pictures in what's called a raw file, that's just a bag of data. It's not really a picture format, and you're going to have to then use external software like Photoshop or Lightroom or Aperture and actually turn that file into a recognizable picture format like a TIFF file or a JPEG or something, and then you would apply the noise reduction technology in your computer. So you could do that too. But for most people that are Photography 101 folks, we're talking about using JPEGs. So more modern processors will have better low light capabilities because of their fancy algorithms. Lastly, certain technologies will have better low light capabilities. So if you took the exact kind of chip from 5 years ago and looked at a chip from today, just the improvement in the chip itself, the imaging chip, the light sensor, is going to be better and will probably offer low light capabilities. There's also things that have been done in chip manufacturing that will offer better low light capabilities. So a lot of chips are called CMOS chips. The regular CMOS has some circuitry in front of the light sensors blocking some of the light. Some sensors are called backlit. All their circuitry is on the back of the sensor, allowing more light to hit the pixels. So backlit sensors will offer somewhat better low light capabilities too. So when you're looking for a camera, look for these features. And then of course look for the size that's right for you. So if you're a person that wants a pocket camera, even though a DSLR will have better low light capabilities, don't buy it. You're not going to use it. However, if you're a person who wants to eventually become a professional sports photographer, or you want to shoot professional shots in a rock concert, well then you're going to want to go for that full frame DSLR with the expensive glass and all of that. How do you get bargains? And that was really the bottom line question. Well, first of all, select cameras that produce good low light images. Then think about ways of getting them at reduced prices. How? Well, buy a refurbished camera. So if you're buying a Nikon camera, get it from the Nikon factory refurbished, or a Canon from the Canon factory refurbished, and it's going to be as good as a brand new camera, sometimes even better, and it's going to be much less expensive. Another way to get a good bargain is to buy last year's model, especially when the models are changing. So every year or so they have to come up with a new camera. It's really only slightly different from the year before. And so if you buy last year's model, or sometimes even the model before that, you can get a very, very good price with pretty much the same performance and save a lot of money. When it comes to buying used cameras, I'd only really recommend buying the better used cameras, like a DSLR or maybe a interchangeable lens system camera, mirrorless camera. I wouldn't go with some of the smaller compact cameras. Those are basically throwaway cameras, and when people are getting rid of them, sometimes they're ready to be thrown away. But if you're getting a DSLR, even going back 5-6 years, depending on the model, you can get excellent low light performance for a fraction of the cost because things have advanced. So those are my tips on what to do if you want to get a high quality, low light performer at a good price. Thanks for watching, and if you get some free time, please give my podcast a listen. It's called Psychiatric Secrets Revealed with Dr. Mike. And if you like this video, I'd really appreciate a thumbs up. And I also really think it's awesome if you want to subscribe. Thanks. Have a great day.